Aries, welcome to your astrology reading for the month of October. So before I jump into this is going to be most applicable for your rising sign, which is how other people perceive you, especially when they first meet you. It's still applicable for your sun sign, which is how you express yourself, and then also your moon sign, which is how you process everything internally through that emotional lens. And so just jumping into the energy, we do just like we've had in the last couple of months, there's a lot happening in October. And so right away at the beginning of the month, we have the new moon in the sign of Libra, but it's not just a new moon. This is a solar eclipse, and it's the annual solar eclipse. So this one here, we're closing out the Aries Libra eclipse season. That's what this is doing here. So we're about to switch signs. The eclipses, they're mathematical points, they're fated events. So there's something really significant that happens during this time period. So we just had our first glimpse at the Pisces Virgo eclipse season that we're going to be going into. We just had the full moon in the sign of Pisces, and that was a partial lunar eclipse. And now we have this solar eclipse in the sign of Libra. So it will happen on the 2nd at 2:49 in the afternoon Eastern time. And so just like with any new moon, when this happens, you have the sun and the moon at the same point in the sky. So their energies are completely overlapped. And the sun, again, how you express yourself. The moon is how you process your emotions, and everything, how you feel everything. And so this is really highlighting how you feel. For you, it's in the sign of Libra. And so this is in your house of partnerships. So if you're married, it would be your marriage partner or just those significant relationships in your life. It could also be contracts, other things where there's that one-on-one kind of relationship. Contracts and marriage, because marriage is a legal contract, that's exactly what it is, and that's why they're kind of both in that same house here. But I don't usually mention the contracts piece, but that feels significant right now. And so if you're negotiating some sort of contract, that could absolutely be highlighted during this new moon. There's a lot of alignment between the way that you feel about this and the way that you're expressing how you feel about this in this specific house. When the sun and the moon during this new moon, they're at the same degree point, they're actually in a conjunction with Mercury as well. Mercury, it's communication, it's how you process information. So you can kind of see that there's a lot of discussions that are maybe taking place. This could be some sort of contract negotiation that's happening for you. And during this new moon, we'll have the sun and moon square Mars in Cancer. Cancer for you is in your 4th house of home. And so Mars, the ruler of your sign, is sitting in that house. And so the way that you feel within your partnership, or maybe these contract negotiations, there's it's a very balanced type of energy, because that's what Libra likes to do. And so everything that you're expressing, everything that you're feeling is very balanced, but it's creating some sort of challenge to maybe taking some sort of action in your home environment. And so this would be something that you feel that you need to do, or you feel that you want to do within your home environment. These two are at odds with each other. So it's almost like I'm trying to keep the peace, but in order to keep the peace, I can't do something that I really want to do here in a home environment. And it's more of maybe now's not the right time. I see that a lot with these square energies. You can work through the energy. You just have to put some effort into it. And then on the 8th, we have Venus trine Mars. So Mars, ruler of your sign again. This one felt pretty significant here. Just when Venus and Mars, I've noticed that a lot when they interact, the interactions tend to be pretty significant. So I grabbed this transit as well. So it's going to happen on the 8th at 6:21 in the morning Eastern time. And so a trine energy is an easy flow of energy. So if you're trying to bring things together, Venus likes to bring things together. Mars likes to separate things. And so there's a real kind of mix of energy happening here. Venus is in the sign of Scorpio. Mars is in the sign of Cancer. So they're both in water signs. Venus in Scorpio is a very deep, intense kind of connection with another person, maybe the way that you feel about this other person. Mars in Cancer is connected to your home environment. And so for you specifically, it's in your home environment, whereas Venus is sitting in your 8th house of transformation. And so there's a lot of kind of maybe, I want to say, I keep wanting to say conversations. There's something about this Venus and Scorpio that makes me think that there's going to be a lot of conversations that are taking place. It is in this house of death and rebirth. So for you, it's whatever is happening, whatever is transforming, it's very deep, it's very emotional. You're going to feel it on a really deep level. And with this trine, Mars and Cancer, it's going to easily blend with whatever's happening in your home environment, whatever action that you want to take in your home environment. If you think to a week before, during this new moon in Libra, you weren't maybe ready to take some sort of action. Now you are with this Venus trine Mars. And Venus being a benefic planet, Mars being a malefic planet, so Venus good, Mars, not so good. Anyway, Venus will kind of put a positive spin on this entire interaction between the two of them. And during this transit, we'll have Venus in Scorpio and Mars in Cancer. They're actually both going to trine Saturn retrograde in Pisces. And they're also going to trine Neptune retrograde in Pisces. And so what this really means here is whatever is transforming for you, whatever is ending, new beginning, whatever you're feeling on that deep level, and whatever action that you're taking in your home environment, it's really giving you this opportunity to focus on your goals, focus on your dreams. Who do you want to be? How do you want to be seen by other people? What kind of work have you already done on that? What work is there still to do in order to achieve that result that you want? And so this is a really easy blend of energy. This is a really happy kind of meeting of the planets. This is a really easygoing conversation. During this trine, Venus will be opposite Uranus retrograde in Taurus. And so what this means for you, Venus in Scorpio is sitting in that house of transformation, so that death and rebirth. It's also the house of other people's money. So this would be the money that you make. And I say that because Uranus retrograde in the sign of Taurus is sitting in your house of the money that you already have. And so there's some sort of opposition taking place, like how you feel about the money that you're making versus any kind of changes that are happening to your current financial status. So these would be kind of sudden changes that are taking place. And so there's this kind of push-pull between the two. So it's like you're trying to bring something together as it relates to money coming in. This could be debt, could be inheritance, anything along those lines. And it's going to be opposite these sudden changes that are happening in your personal finances. But I mean, this is a transit, it won't last. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's just an energy of right now. And then we have Jupiter station retrograde in Gemini. So this one's a pretty big deal. Jupiter being one of the outer planets here, it is the most benefic planet, and it's actually been sitting in its fall, which means that it's at its weakest point right now, sitting in the sign of Gemini. It's in the sign of Gemini. It rules Sagittarius. They're opposite each other. That's why it's at its weakest point. What that really means is that it's just not going to be as beneficial as it normally could be because it is in the sign of Gemini. But when Jupiter stations retrograde, it's a lot of that good fortune, good luck, positive momentum forward. It's a lot of turning that inward and making some sort of inner growth, inner expansion, maybe seeing the truth in a situation, but from an inside lens. And this is going to happen on the 9th at 3:04 in the morning Eastern time, because I don't think I mentioned that. Jupiter in Gemini is actually sitting in your third house of communication. So what this means is that you're going to be working on your communication skills, maybe the way that you process information. You're going to put maybe a positive spin on things. If you've been kind of taking everything in through a negative lens, this indicates that you might be switching the way that you're processing everything. Instead of looking at a scenario or a disagreement with another person, or even just a normal conversation, instead of looking at it from a negative standpoint, kind of taking the positive. What lessons are you learning out of it? What are you gaining out of this entire interaction here? When Jupiter stations retrograde, it will also trine the sun in Libra. And so Jupiter and Gemini in your third house. So again, kind of internal clarity on your communication that leads to growth and expansion. It's going to easily blend with however you're expressing yourself in your significant relationship. Again, could be marriage if you're married, or just somebody that maybe you see in that way, or that relationship, like living together. It would have to be something more significant than just a casual dating type of energy, because it is that 7th house. Or it could be contracts and negotiations here, because this is a lot of communication that's taking place. And whatever's happening, if there is some sort of contract here, it is very balanced. And you're looking for it almost feels like you're looking for ways to either keep it balanced or grow and expand, but internally. Because we also have Jupiter retrograde in Gemini trine Mercury in Libra. And Mercury is all about communication. So you're coming across very balanced. The way that you're expressing yourself is very balanced. Any conversations that you're having with your significant other, or anything related to those contracts, negotiations, everything here does seem to be very balanced. And there just seems to be almost a mutual agreement of some sort of growth. And so you're working internally on how to make that reality. Jupiter retrograde in Gemini will also sextile Chiron retrograde in Aries. And so with this kind of internal expansion, maybe clarity on a situation, really kind of understanding the depths and the details of it that are meant to help and grow and expand who you are, it's creating some sort of opportunity for you to heal some sort of wound that's come to the surface. Chiron's been showing up a lot, pretty significantly. And with Chiron, again, showing up right now in your first house, this would be maybe a physical wound. This would be something connected to your physical body. And so when Jupiter stations retrograde, it's giving you an opportunity to take some sort of action to heal that wound. Jupiter in Gemini will also square Saturn in Pisces. And this here just indicates that when Jupiter stations retrograde, it's not in a good relationship with the Saturn retrograde. It's creating obstacles and challenges for you to maybe work on something here, do some sort of inner work on yourself to really go after and be the person that you want to be here. There's a lot happening when Jupiter stations retrograde because it's also going to square Neptune retrograde in Pisces. And so very similar to that Saturn retrograde in Pisces, Saturn's all about the work that you're putting in. Neptune is really about what dreams do you have. And so when Jupiter stations retrograde and you're starting to process and maybe understand things differently, it's just creating some challenges to maybe some of the work that you've already done for yourself to go after your goals and your dreams. Or it's maybe has you reconsidering what you've already said that these are your goals and your dreams, like maybe go back and reevaluate, take another look at the entire situation. And then we have Jupiter retrograde in Gemini opposite the moon in Sagittarius. And so Jupiter in Gemini in your house of communication, it's also short distance travel. And it's going to be opposite the moon in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is long distance travel, but it's also ninth house. So this is growth and expansion. Again, Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So there's this kind of push-pull that is taking place. All the inner work that you're doing to maybe take in and understand everything that's happening here that is meant for your growth and expansion is opposite how you already feel about an entire situation or maybe holistically about your life. And what it's just doing is this Jupiter in Gemini is kind of giving you a sense of reevaluating, reconsidering what you already knew to be true because maybe you didn't have all the facts. And that's what Jupiter in Gemini going inward is going to have you doing. Maybe this is where you start to really get into the details of things because Gemini likes the details. And then we have Pluto station direct. So this one's a pretty big deal. So Pluto stations direct on the 11th at 8:32 in the evening Eastern time. Pluto is that planet of transformation. Well, it's one of two. So it is death and rebirth in the sign of Capricorn. So Capricorn is structure. It is, think of any kind of plan that you have put in place to go after your goals and your dreams, or any plans that you have in general. That's usually Capricorn driven. It's very much a Capricorn energy, but sometimes Capricorn can be very rigid in the strategy that you've come up with. And it's more of, I really have this goal in mind, so I'm just going to keep creating almost like limitations on myself and really box myself in such a way that I'm going to achieve these goals. I'm going to make my dreams a reality. But Pluto and Capricorn is saying, okay, we were just retrograde in this energy, so reconsidering all of those structures that you have in place. Where do you need to lift those limitations and restrictions? What needs to go away? Because Pluto is death and rebirth. So what needs to end here? For you, Capricorn is in your 10th house of career and public reputation. So when Pluto is sitting in your career and public reputation, now what you're doing is seeing a lot of structural change that's taking place. A lot of new beginnings are going to unfold. That's what this is all about. It's old structures being broken down, being replaced by something more flexible. Because when Pluto moves back into Aquarius, it does not want to be in a place that is very rigid and so narrowly defined within a box or in a rule set. That's not how this is going to be. Pluto in Capricorn, when it stations direct, will conjunct the moon in Aquarius. And so this is where whatever changes are taking place in your work environment are going to feel really good because they're going to completely align with however you feel about your group of friends or the community around you, just those people that you enjoy spending time with. Pluto and Capricorn will also trine Uranus, a retrograde in Taurus. And so the changes that are happening in your work environment to those structures and everything there, it's going to easily flow with whatever changes are happening to your personal finances because Pluto is a planet of change and Uranus is a planet of change. And the difference between the two is Pluto is death and rebirth. Uranus is sudden change. Let's remove these obstacles. Let's get this off your path. It just doesn't belong here. It is in the sign of Taurus, and so this is meant for your own personal kind of practical growth, focusing on what you value. And so an easy blend of energy. So whatever's happening here in your work environment, it's easily going to blend with whatever changes are happening to your personal finances. We'll also have Pluto in Capricorn sextile Neptune retrograde in Pisces. And what this means is all these changes that are happening in your work environment, they're going to create some sort of opportunity for you to go back again and maybe revisit the goals that you've set for yourself. There's a lot of modification that's taking place right now. We are definitely in some sort of transitory period where there's a lot of evaluating, reevaluating, and getting kind of another glimpse at it again. It's a lot of that kind of energy, and that's what this is. It's giving you an opportunity to go back and reconsider your goals and your dreams for yourself. We'll also have Pluto in Capricorn square Mercury in Libra. So these changes that are happening in your work environment, they are going to create obstacles and challenges to any kind of discussions you're having with your significant other. So again, marriage partner, if you're married, or if this is about contracts and negotiations, it does look like the changes that are taking place in your work environment might be creating obstacles as it relates to negotiating this specific contract. We'll also have Pluto in Capricorn square Chiron retrograde in Aries. And so these changes that are happening in your work environment are going to create obstacles or challenges to healing some sort of wound about yourself. And so this wound would be, again, something connected to your physical body. This is probably not new. We've been in this energy for a while. The wound that's been coming to the surface, it's been showing up over the last roughly 6 months or so. And this is just one more thing. Like, it's showing up again, but maybe now's not the right time. Revisit later, just because right now the bulk of this is on your career. And then we have Pluto in Capricorn opposite Mars in Cancer. And so this is your work life, home life. This is why they're opposite. And so these changes that are happening in your work environment are creating, well, an imbalance really with whatever action you're trying to take in your home environment. It's that push-pull kind of energy. You can find the happy medium. You do have to work at this one. This one is a little bit harder to work through than a square, but you can. Then we have Mercury enter the sign of Scorpio. So that's going to happen on the 13th at 3:24 in the afternoon Eastern time. Mercury in Scorpio. So Scorpio is death and rebirth. And for you, that's sitting in your 8th house, which is the house of death and rebirth. So we've got Mercury sitting in this really intense house. There's more to this house than just death and rebirth. This is other people's money. So think about the money that you earn, your spouse's income. This could be power and control issues. Any kind of intimacy issues might be, if you have those, they're contained within this house because there is that kind of power and control. And Mercury in that house, these would be very deep kind of conversations that you're having, because Mercury is all about conversations, communication, understanding, and processing everything in. And so these would be really, really deep, transformative type of conversations that could be happening. And when Mercury enters Scorpio, it's going to be conjunct the Sun in Libra, which is sitting in your 7th house. So again, your marriage partner, your significant other, these contracts and negotiations, if that's what you're kind of involved in at the moment. So whatever is happening, so whatever these transformative conversations are, these very deep, intense conversations, it's going to easily blend with however you're expressing yourself in negotiations or with your significant other. Everything's going to come across very balanced from your perspective. So this is really positive. If you're in that kind of relationship, in a marriage or something along those lines, something maybe living together long-term, something probably akin to marriage, this is a pretty good transit for you. Mercury in Scorpio will also trine the moon in Aquarius. And so these kind of deep, intense conversations are going to easily flow with how you feel about your friends. And so you can see like a real easy alignment here with pretty much all the relationships that you have in your life, because we've got your significant other, we've got your group of friends. I mean, these are pretty significant. They encompass a lot of people. And then we have Mercury in Scorpio trine Jupiter retrograde in Gemini. And so these really deep conversations that you're having, they're going to easily flow with whatever you're doing internally, whatever internal growth and expansion, understanding the details of the situation. What is it that you want to achieve here? Because this is a lot of communication. We've got Mercury trine, Jupiter's in your 3rd house, and 3rd house is communication. So this is a lot of communication, maybe getting down into the details, understanding the depths of everything, because these two really want to go deep and they really want to get to know each other on that really just base, fundamental, let's get way beneath the surface here so that you can grow and expand, because that's the intent here with that Jupiter in Gemini. And then we have Mercury in Scorpio square Mars in Cancer. And so these conversations, these really deep, intense conversations, are going to create obstacles or challenges as it relates to taking some sort of action in your home environment. But this isn't going to last. Mercury is a very fast, one of the faster moving planets. So it's not going to sit in that energy for very long. And then we have Mercury in Scorpio square Pluto in Capricorn. And so these deep, intense conversations that you're having, they're creating some sort of obstacle or challenge as it relates to the changes that are happening in your work environment. It's more of like that death and rebirth energy. Because that Mercury in Scorpio, well, Scorpio is death and rebirth, but so is the 8th house. And then we've got Pluto, which is the ruler of Scorpio. And so that's also death and rebirth. And so there's a lot of change that's taking place right now. And so with this Mercury in Scorpio, square Pluto and Capricorn, it seems like these changes that are happening are very different. What I'm seeing is in your personal life, your personal relationships are doing really well during this transit. And I'm seeing some obstacles or challenges as it relates to any kind of external changes. So maybe changes in the workplace or the structure at your work, something along those lines. It's a square energy. You just have to work through it. And then we have the full moon in the sign of Aries. And so that is your sign, my friend. And so when this happens, you have the sun and the moon at different points in the sky. And so the sun is in Libra. So this is self-expression. This is very balanced. We've got Aries. You know you. So how you feel about yourself, because the moon is in the sign of Aries. And so it's a lot of kind of me, Aries energy. Libra is we type of energy. So it's a lot of, you can kind of see that push-pull. Do you want to compromise or do you want to win? I mean, maybe not win. Win's probably not the right word, but do you want to be independent and really kind of do your own thing? And so during any full moon, you have the sun and moon having different conversations with the planets. And so the sun, because it's opposite the moon in Aries, is also going to be opposite Chiron in Aries. So that wound that you have that relates to who you are, your physical person, the sun is going to be opposite that, which does indicate to me that it is a push-pull energy. I would say now is probably not the time to take any kind of action to heal that wound. It would be a more difficult energy to work through because it does feel like Sun in Libra, like you're really trying to express yourself in a very balanced way, especially in relationships. Whereas the moon in Aries is going to conjunct Chiron in Aries. So how you feel about yourself really fully aligns with whatever action you need to take in order to heal that wound. And then we have the sun in Libra will trine Jupiter retrograde in Pisces. And so that balanced expression that you have with your significant other, it's going to easily flow with maybe understanding the details and the depths of the conversations that you're having, because that Jupiter retrograde in Gemini is in your 3rd house of communication. So this is a lot of conversation with your significant other here. Whereas the moon in Aries will create an opportunity for maybe more conversation, because the moon in Aries is sextile Jupiter in Gemini. And what this means here is maybe in these conversations that you're having with your significant other, they might do something about or affect you in a way that feels very positive. Moon in Aries sextile Jupiter retrograde, so it's giving you an opportunity to maybe feel better about yourself and maybe do more kind of internal reflection on what you need to do to grow, maybe the way that you communicate with your significant other. If this is a communication style that's working for you, how do I keep that going? Kind of one of those types of thoughts, like I like where this is going with this relationship and I want to keep it going. And so this mode of communication works, let's do it. That it would be that kind of energy. And then so there's two things that are going to happen here. The sun and moon are actually in a T-square with Mars in Cancer. And the same thing is going to happen with Pluto and Capricorn. And so what this means is that you've got the sun in a square with Mars. So these balanced conversations, or the way that you're expressing yourself to your significant other, it's going to create obstacles or challenges to taking on any kind of action at home. How you feel about yourself and your own independence also creates obstacles and challenges to taking any kind of action at home. We also have the sun in Libra, square Pluto and Capricorn. So these balanced conversations that you're having with your significant other are going to create obstacles and challenges to whatever transformation is happening in your work environment. How you feel about yourself is going to do the same thing. It's going to create some sort of obstacle or challenge to those changes that are happening within your work environment. And so again, this feels more like work is outside of this. There's a lot of emphasis right now on your inner connection, you, and then your significant other. And so it just feels like you could work through this with both the Mars in Cancer and the Pluto in Capricorn. So you could take some sort of action at home if that's what you really need to do, or you could lean into the changes more that are happening at work, but it is going to require some sort of work on your part. It's not just going to happen. It's not going to happen easily. Then we have Venus enter the sign of Sagittarius. So that's going to happen on October 17th at 3:29 in the afternoon Eastern time. So this is the same day as the full moon. And when Venus enters the sign of Sagittarius, so Sagittarius is very fun-loving, can be very impulsive, kind of the perpetual student, that type of energy. And Venus likes to bring things together. An emphasis here on relationships, what you value. Sagittarius is very high level, likes to see the truth in a situation here. And Venus and Sagittarius, I mean, these two get along pretty well. There's very much a fun-loving, adventurous type of spirit here when Venus is in Sagittarius. And for you, that is sitting in your 9th house of growth and expansion. So this is a really positive transit for that. When Venus, if I get the word out, enters Sagittarius, it will trine Mars in Cancer, which means feeling adventurous, whatever positivity, whatever it is that you're trying to bring together from like a big picture standpoint that is meant to grow and expand, it's going to easily flow with whatever action you want to take in your home environment. And then we have Venus in Sagittarius trine Neptune retrograde in Pisces. And so when Venus enters the sign of Sagittarius again, it's going to give you some sort of, well, it's not an opportunity here. This is actually going to easily flow. You won't need to do anything here. It's going to help you kind of reevaluate or see the truth in the dreams that you have set for yourself, because that Sagittarius energy is all about the truth, but it's also about the big picture. And so the more fun-loving and adventurous this Venus in Sagittarius is, it's really showing you how this all works for you, how this can work to your advantage, what goals you've set for yourself, and how that all interrelates, because this makes it feel like there's a lot of positivity connected to what you've already set for yourself as those kind of goals that you want to achieve. And then we have Venus in Sagittarius sextile Pluto and Capricorn. And so kind of embracing that adventurous side that's really meant to help you grow as a person. It's creating some sort of opportunity for maybe other types of changes in your work environment. And then Venus in Sagittarius will be opposite Uranus retrograde in Taurus. And so you can see kind of that growth and expansion, bringing things together, really highlighting what you value as far as growing and expanding. It is going to be opposite whatever changes are happening in your personal finances. And this can indicate maybe now you're spending money on something, and in the past, maybe that's not something that you would have spent money on. And so this would be kind of a push-pull type of situation where in order to grow, it just means that maybe you're spending more money, or there's some sort of change happening in your personal finances that actually might be hindering this growth and expansion too. And then on the 22nd, we have the sun enter the sign of Scorpio. So that's going to happen at 6:15 in the evening Eastern time. And the sun in Scorpio. So Scorpio transformation for sure, death and rebirth, as has shown up a lot. The sun is how you're expressing yourself. So this is expressing yourself in a way that is meant to kind of maybe get rid of some old things, focus on something new here, really transform you. And it will trine Jupiter retrograde in Gemini. So right as the sun enters the sign of Scorpio, there is this really easy flow of energy as it relates to your internal growth and expansion. And so for you, these two houses are your 8th house of transformation and your 3rd house of communication. So really much in line with the Scorpio 8th house, Gemini 3rd house energy, where any kind of transformative way of expressing yourself, because this is your self-expression, is going to easily flow with the way that you're communicating or understanding the impact of how everything is affecting you. And then we have the sun in Scorpio square Pluto and Capricorn. And so the sun in Scorpio here, square Pluto and Capricorn. So this just means that any kind of transformation that you might be undergoing right now, the way that you're expressing yourself would be something that's different here because you're expressing yourself in a different way. It's going to create some sort of obstacle or challenge as it relates to changes that are happening in your work environment. It's also going to create some sort of obstacle or challenge to taking any kind of action here at home, because that sun in Scorpio will square Mars in Cancer. And then Sun in Scorpio will be opposite Chiron retrograde in Aries. And so when you think about you're transforming, there's a lot that's been changing. We are definitely in that transitory period. It is opposite to healing any kind of wound that has come to the surface as it relates to your physical body. And then I did want to throw in one more transit for the month, just because I thought this one was really fascinating here. So it's not any of the planets entering different signs or anything else, which are usually the major ones. This one's Mercury trine Neptune. And so that's going to happen on Halloween, the 31st at 8:33 in the evening Eastern time. And so Mercury is in the sign of Scorpio. So again, thinking about those kind of deep, intense, transformational type of conversations that you're having will easily blend with whatever it is that you're pursuing from a goals standpoint. This is an easy flow of energy. There's nothing that you need to do different in order to make this happen. It is going to happen. But when Mercury trines Neptune, it's also talking to Cancer. So these deep, intense conversations are going to easily blend with whatever action that you want to take in your home environment. And the way that you think about your goals and your dreams is also easily going to blend with whatever action you want to take in your home environment. So you can kind of see where things are starting to come together at the end of the month, as they typically do, because the energy does ebb and flow. And with the Mercury in Scorpio, it's going to, so that these transformational conversations are going to create some sort of opportunity for you to lean into those changes that are happening in your work environment. It's creating some sort of opportunity here as it relates to your work environment. But so is that Neptune retrograde in Pisces. So what you're thinking about your dreams, what those dreams are, kind of that second, third, fifth look that you've had at those dreams, it's creating some sort of opportunity as it relates to changes in your work environment. Mercury in Scorpio will also be opposite Uranus retrograde in Taurus. And so this is where any kind of transformation, this could be a money conversation specifically, because we do have that Mercury in Scorpio in your 8th house, which is other people's money. It's not just that death and rebirth. It is going to be opposite the changes that are happening to your personal finances. And so this could be maybe you're having conversations because contracts have come up a couple times. So maybe there's some sort of contract at work that you're negotiating. And this would be, okay, well, let's talk about the money that I'm making. What kind of changes are going to happen to the money that I'm making versus the changes that I'm seeing happen in my personal finances already. And then we do have the Neptune retrograde in Pisces will sextile that energy, which means the conversations themselves might be at odds, but the goals that you've set for yourself will create an opportunity for you to either lean into the changes that are happening to your personal finances, because it's Uranus, so these are going to be sudden changes that you're not really going to see coming, or it might create an opportunity here for even more changes to happen to your personal finances. And then this Neptune retrograde in Pisces will square Jupiter retrograde in Gemini, which just means these goals and these dreams that you've set for yourself will create some sort of obstacle or challenge to whatever's happening to your communication style that's meant to grow. And so this just indicates to me that now it's more of like an internal, let me think about everything, understand the goals that I've set for myself, versus maybe trying to express myself in some sort of way, because Gemini is in your 3rd house of communication. And so it's creating an obstacle or challenge there, but it's, again, these energies ebb and flow, so it's not going to last. So Aries, this is your reading. I hope it resonates. If it did, please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Take care.